Hello. Just thought I'd send one out about something that I've discovered concerning chemtrails and global engineering, or geoengineering, I should say. The powers that be that are behind these programs, they actually want us talking about chemtrails, and they actually want us posting about this stuff, and they want us to be talking about it and then not do anything about it. It's something called informed consent. So basically what that means is that when they put articles out about, how we need to dim the sun because the UV rays are raising the Earth's temperature, and so we're going to spray these aerosols into the atmosphere to dim down the sun to prevent UV rays from coming in, or, when they talk about how they're going to use certain apparatus to, modify the weather. They're putting these articles out, they're putting this information out to the public, even though it may not specifically say, hey, we're going to pump these poisons into the atmosphere because we're really trying to make sure that everybody is breathing these poisons so we can perpetuate the medical industry and in turn the big pharmaceutical companies, and then in turn profit the the big agribusiness that are growing the materials for the big pharma. And of course we all know that all these big corporate industries all flow back to one source, the 13 Illuminati families. But getting back to the informed consent, is they put this information out, and it would be similar to if you take an auditorium that's filled with people, and at the beginning of the show a couple of the actors come out on the stage, and one of them says, oh, by the way, we're gonna chop this guy's head off somewhere in the show. And they turn around and walk away, and people in the audience are just looking at each other like, wow, what did he say? Did he just say they're going to chop his head? Wow, that's kind of weird. And nobody stands up to it. Well, then the show progresses, and the head gets chopped off, and people jump up outraged, and they turn around and say, well, wait a minute. We told you it was going to happen, and you didn't say anything about it, so you gave us informed consent by not saying anything about it. Now flip that script, and let's say those same two actors and the same information is given. Hey, by the way, we're going to cut this guy's head off through the show, and people jump up immediately and start screaming, no, that's wrong, you can't do that, we won't stand for that. Well, guess what? Then they can't do it. So what we have going on, not only in America but across the planet, is informed consent. And by that, I see a lot of social media platforms where people are discussing, the situation, and they're filming it and they're posting it. We have these planes doing this, these planes doing that. Look at these skies, look at how it's a whiteout, and but there's very little discussion on what to do about it, how to stop it. Well, the first step that we have to take is that we have to contact our local politicians, whether if you're in the States, whether that be your local congressman, your city council, your state senators, your governors, anybody on the political scene, you have to call them. And calling them is the most effective way to have your voice heard. Because the thing is that statistics show 1 out of every 1,000 people will take the time to contact their local politician. So for every voice that's heard, to them it represents 1,000 people. So, you do the math. If 1,000 people call, that's 10,000 people. If it's 10,000, it's 100,000, and so on and so forth. So what we need to do at the ground level is immediately contact and flood their offices with phone calls. I know personally that they have people on call at the phone desks that are taking and registering these phone calls. I've called Congressman Trott, who is my local congressman. I've called him several times to voice my concern over certain issues. And there's also a line to the White House, which I don't know what I did with it, but I've called the White House regarding Standing Rock, and they actually have people that will answer the phone and take your call. So first and foremost, we have to call our local politicians and tell them that we do not give consent for these climate change programs that are taking place. And if we have enough people calling and stating that we do not give consent, because the thing is with these shadow programs is they've got this, I don't know what you would call it, but this pet peeve, I suppose, about legality. And by pushing these programs forward, in their minds, now when I say these shadow programs, I'm talking more about like the Illuminati families, the Pope and the Vatican and the entities that control the Vatican. Well, they have this desire and this absolute need to ensure that they're giving the fine print, so to speak. And so that's why, you can always see what the Illuminati's going to do, because they always announce it, whether it's through movies or through television programs or, whatever that case might be, whether it's, throwing little articles on page 12 of the newspaper or something, or some little story, with 2 minutes to go in your nightly news. But they push the information out there, and then we accept it, but we don't stand up and do anything about it. Now, like I say, it's really not that difficult to put in a call to any of your local politicians. Now, I'm not sure how it works in other nations around the world, but I know here in the States, you can call anytime, day or night, on the weekend, and if there isn't somebody there during, if it's after business hours or on the weekend or something, you can leave a message and simply state that you do not give your consent to these aerosol spraying programs, because they're, of course, everything is, we're doing this to help the environment, and, humans have damaged the environment so tremendously that we have to do these programs. Well, the thing is that these people that are doing this shit, they have no clue how it's impacting the planetary structure, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And studies have shown, and there's mountain ranges of evidence, that what they're doing now is destroying the environment. This whole climate change, global warming scare, it's all perpetuated on purpose. But they're talking about this global dimming in an effort to try to cool the planet. Well, if you do a little bit of research, you'll find that the sun goes through cycles of its own. Every 11 years or so, it has something, I believe it's called a solar summer, where the solar flare activity amps up and the sun just normally projects greater amounts of solar flares and solar radiation. And so what the brainiacs on this planet have decided is that we need this solar radiation management. Now, it's been determined that in certain areas around the world that the amount of sunlight has been diminished by up to 20%. The brightness has been diminished by up to 20% over the last 30 years. And so now you have these shadow programs that are spraying these aerosols, and you'll notice that it's been amped up, just in the last year or so. And so what they're doing is, on the days where you see the straight line spraying, it's more of a weather manipulation or weather modification agenda. And the days where you see the grid patterns, they use specific geometric shapes in these grid patterns because it suspends these aerosols for longer and in certain areas that they want, so they can then block the sun to to achieve this global dimming or this solar radiation management. And so, the bottom line of it is that we have to make our voices heard, not just simply to each other, speaking about what's happening in our own communities, and informing people around the world of what's happening. But now we need to get to the point where we're telling those individuals, that we do not give our consent and we will not stand for this. And as we know, there's a global awakening happening, and the people in America or in the States recently voted against the establishment. People in Bulgaria voted against the establishment. There's a major vote coming in December for Italy, and hopefully they'll vote against the establishment, because the establishment is the control system. They're the ones that think that they know what's best for the planet and for every living organism on the planet. And in essence, they're poisoning everything. Everything. You think about it. They use these geometric patterns, suspend this in the atmosphere. Well, this stuff is in the atmosphere and it slowly trickles to Earth, simply through gravity. But then it gets trapped in, storm clouds or rain clouds, and it's then delivered to the Earth. Now, we know that water has a resonance retention factor to it. So you can resonate sounds into water and it'll actually retain information, which then, if you extrapolate that, you can think of the ocean as a giant pool of information. And then that's, evaporated into the sky, and then it's distributed worldwide. So that information is a data delivery system through the rain clouds. And now all that rain is then carried, combining with the aerosols in the atmosphere, and it's dropped on the planet, and everything gets penetrated by the water. And so now all this stuff is then penetrating, and it's then being re-released. So not only are we getting it from the sky, but once it falls with the rain or falls, it's covering everything. So, I implore you to, make your voice known to your politicians, to tell them we do not give consent to these programs. And, well, hopefully this will help, and have a nice day.